You're gonna love this one. The only thing better than Rob Schneider at a comedy stand-up is hearing his sarcastic jibes at modern America on a more serious political platform. That's exactly what happened when Rob attended the America Fest a few months ago, hosted by Turning Point USA, and I think these few snippets from his speech give you a window into how unfiltered he really was. There's a lot we need to get into with this one, so watch this clip before we dive in.
I'm asking myself, what am I doing here? I am a traditional liberal, which apparently makes me a right-winger these days. Traditional liberalism, women's rights, gay rights, civil rights, not judging a person by the color of their skin, free speech, these are now conservative values. So much has changed so rapidly. It's only been a couple of years since we've learned that women could have. If you speak your mind in Hollywood, you go from playing the bad guy in Spider-Man to Naked and Alone, Celebrity Edition.
Rob Schneider just put a finger on something that I don't think enough people talk about. Isn't it peculiar just how far the political landscape has shifted in just the last 2 decades? Classic liberals used to stand for limited government and individual liberty, and it's arguably those tenets that lie at the core of the American ideal embedded and improved all the way from the 1800s. So when you see the conservatives of today champion similar values, maybe that's what they're really trying to conserve. They ceded the ground to the liberals of their time because at least they upheld the individualist tradition that defined it. And then you enter the 20th century, which I think you can view as the most transformative century there has ever been for human civilization. Starting from the feminist movement and the civil rights fight, perhaps we realized that banding together in groups to demand our rights was the way to go, leading to a new kind of collectivism that started to overshadow our politics. And as a result, classic liberalism became neoliberalism and then the social liberalism that you see today. The word social as a prefix is what I think is the greatest departure away from true liberalism, has always meant because it borrows from collectivist ideologies to abandon small government for large state intervention and gives up individual liberty for collective good. So in that sense, perhaps if you plucked a person from 200 years ago and dropped them into today's America, they would recognize very little of the modern left as the liberalism that they champion.
Just got back from an LGBTQ plus rally for Hamas. I invited them all to a KKK rally for Black Lives Matter. And then to an underage minors fundraiser for pedophiles. Just got back from California. Grocery shopping in California takes forever. You just go, excuse me, can I get somebody to unlock the bananas? Because I'm low on potassium. California is a test case for what we don't want for the rest of America. But you should know there is a very good chance that Gavin Newsom could be president of the United States.
And you know what? It may be sooner than you think. Gavin Newsom is the perfect personification of that new social liberalism that I just talked about, and he fits neatly into what the Democratic platform has become. It was already expected that he would consider a presidential run in 2028, but now we're hearing some other rumors. Some people seem to think that Gavin is running somewhat of a shadow campaign for 2024 itself, ready to step up as one of the people to potentially replace Joe Biden if he drops out of the race. That means the rest of America may get to see things like trying to establish a single-payer universal healthcare system that has ended in expensive failures, massive reforms in the prison and bail system, and a bevy of new leftist social policies around issues of race, abortion, and the transgender debate. I don't know if America is ready for a President Gavin Newsom, but it may be time to start preparing.
In an era of seemingly unending acceptance where you have to accept others without question, but not accept people who disagree with you, there seems to be a lack of acceptance of the gender in which you were born. If I had a dime for every gender, I would have 20 cents. Unbelievably, on university campuses now they have free speech zones, which sounds cool and nice, but not that long ago the entire university was a free speech zone. Now what they are really saying is that most places in the university, you have no free speech.
It stems from the same political takeover where feelings of the collective have to find a safe space from the free speech of the individual. A poll from the Brookings Institution revealed that overall, just 39% of American college students think hate speech is a protected class of speech under the First Amendment. That obviously leaves open the interpretation of a hate speech, meaning it can be changed and morphed with the times. That's the fatal problem of interpretation that forces us to grow a thicker skin to what we may think is hate speech rather than giving a centralized power the control to censor what we hear or say. It's unfortunate that this kind of rigorous and pragmatic understanding of free speech is falling by the wayside, and of all people, students are boxing themselves up into safe spaces on college campuses. Polls have also revealed how many students at college and universities are now uncomfortable speaking openly about the transgender debate for fear of being construed as hate speech. Rob Schneider, as a comedian, can go to a conservative conference and say what he just said, but it's all the more important for students in a university setting to be able to say the same blunt truths they believe, so they can be debated and challenged in response. Over 40% of American college students report that they hesitate to express a controversial opinion in class. That goes to show just how wrong the modern education system is going in fostering ideas and a culture of free speech.
The neocons who want to silence us, they want a new world order, but they don't realize that once they finish off undermining the last bastion of freedom here in the United States, it will not be them running the world, it will be the Chinese. One thing they are not doing as China is letting their children decide which gender they are. Where our government wants to dumb us down, make us fat, sick, inject us with experimental substances, eating toxic foods, water, living in fear, God wants to test us, to keep us strong in mind, body, and spirit.
That's why, for all its faults, America and its ideals are still a net positive for the world than if civilians were to fall under the leadership of a country like China, which is diametrically opposed to everything we stand for. There's a shrewd state capitalism that runs China with a centralized economy and collectivist social order that forces you to fall in line. For modern America, that's an example of what not to become. I think Rob Schneider's words help that truth sink in when it pairs with a tinge of comedy. It is sometimes said that we live in a world where we watch our comedians for wisdom and our politicians for a good laugh. That's a good description of where we stand right now, but perhaps there's no greater damage that can be done than a culture at large forgetting the ideals that set it in motion. If there's any real danger to this country's fabric, that is it. And that's why it's all the more important for us to stay vigilant to even the smallest attempts to rip them from underneath our foundation.